Welcome to the educational channel. This is episode 13, unit 3, reading comprehension and translation. First, here are a few tips for the reading comprehension. Have a look at the questions before reading the passage. Read the first sentence of each paragraph. Pay attention to transition words. Discuss the meaning of the passage as if you were telling it to someone else. When you come across a difficult word, try to guess the meaning from the context of the sentence or the paragraph. Go back and reread after you have read the questions. Always remember, we're going to read the questions first, and then we're going to read the passage. First, we have the multiple choice questions. Let's take a look at those. Choose the correct answer from A, B, C, and D. Usually you have 4 choices. Question number 1. Which of the following would be the main idea of the third paragraph? Always focus if there's an assigned paragraph to the question. Now, for this question, you need to skim the whole paragraph. Skimming means going through it very quickly. The main idea is the point of the paragraph. Usually, you can find it in the first sentence of the paragraph. Question number 2. What does the underlined word inevitable in the 4th paragraph mean? This needs careful reading and scanning. Try to build up your vocabulary. This will help you easily identify synonyms or antonyms. Focus on the context where the word is given. Sharpen your knowledge also of idioms and expressions, not just vocabulary words. Question number 3. What does the underlined word those in the 2nd paragraph refer to? See, the assigned paragraph here is the 2nd paragraph. Words such as this, these, it, or they are used in specific sentences. You need to scan the target paragraph, which is mentioned in the question. Pay attention to the sentence which is close to the reference word. Question number 4. According to the passage, what do governments do to protect the rights of minorities? Now, how do we locate explicit questions? It is something that has been clearly expressed. You need to scan the paragraph or the passage. Read and understand the question carefully and focus on the text information. Question number 5. According to the passage, which of the following is not true? Focus here, we want the not true. Now, how do we answer implicit questions? Target information is not directly stated in the passage. Sometimes you need to use your personal background knowledge and the text information to answer the question. Read between the lines, meaning understand the passage. After the multiple choice questions, we have the productive questions. Question number 6. How do most countries view freedom? Question 7. How is tolerance translated into laws? Question 8. What did experts find out about different cultures regarding human values? Question 9. How is compassion best expressed as tangible behavior? We read the questions very carefully. Now we go to read the passage. Here we have the passage's title, Our Shared Humanity. Let's start reading. Despite the apparent diversity of cultures throughout the world, some ethnographers and anthropologists have set out to establish a set of universal human values. They believe that almost all cultures, from the simplest to the most complex, share several basic traits and values. Here is a brief overview of some of their findings. Compassion. The first value they identified was compassion and empathy, caring for those worse off than ourselves or those incapable of looking after themselves, such as the hungry, poor, elderly, or very young, is a human attribute we can find in almost every society. The ways in which this behavior is expressed range from looking after the sick to donating a portion of one's earnings to charitable causes. Freedom. Human freedom is another value that most societies seem to value. However, Freedom is not as straightforward as its name may imply. Freedom does not mean simply acting as one wishes all the time. In fact, such an action is the opposite of freedom. Most cultures perceive freedom as a balance between individual freedoms and the needs of society as a whole. Society gives us many forms of protection that we wouldn't otherwise have. Tolerance. Tolerance, or the acceptance of people different from ourselves, is another important human value. Many countries have important legislation in place to protect minorities from abuse and discrimination. This is simply the inevitable evolution of basic human impulses translated into laws. After we have read the passage, we go back to take a look at the questions again. Now it will be easier to identify the answer. Multiple choice question number 1. Which of the following would be the main idea of the third paragraph? Take a look at the answers you have here. Then go back to the third paragraph and try to find the answer. After careful skimming, you will find that the main idea of the third paragraph, as you can see, the title is freedom, which is liberty, is a more complex idea than it may first appear. Liberty is the same as freedom. It's a synonym. Question 2. What does the underlined word inevitable in the fourth paragraph mean? You take a look at the multiple choice you have here. Then go to the paragraph. Let's say you don't know really what the word means, or you have a doubt of the meaning. Try to read the paragraph, read the sentence carefully, and guess the meaning. Here we find this is simply the inevitable evolution of basic human impulses translated into laws. Now, inevitable means unavoidable. You can't change it. What does the underlined word those in the second paragraph refer to? Now, for word reference, we also go back to the passage. In order to check what is it referring to exactly, we can read the sentence after the word and then guess the word reference. The first value they identified was compassion and empathy, caring for those worse off than ourselves or those incapable of looking after themselves. Those incapable of looking after themselves, such as the hungry, poor, elderly, or very young, which means we have to search for one of these in the multiple choice, and here we go. We have poor. Question number 4. According to the passage, what do governments do to protect the rights of minorities? We go back to the passage and we check, what do the governments exactly do? Do they have set out a set of human values? Have they implemented legislation to protect the minorities? Do they donate a portion of the earnings? Or do they share several basic traits and values? The governments have implemented legislation to protect minorities from abuse and discrimination. Question 5. According to the passage, which of the following is not true? Which means there are 3 true and one of them is not true. Let's take a look at all of them. A. Is it human values are important because they help us to grow and develop? Is this not true? Or B. Human values help us create the future we want to experience? C. Human values help us to live in peace, be tolerant, and accept diversity? Or D. Human values help us discriminate and be careless? What do you think? Of course, it's D. Now, let's go to the productive questions. We will answer them very carefully after taking a look at the paragraphs again. Skimming. Remember, skimming means looking very quickly at the paragraphs. How do most countries view freedom? So for question 6, we can see that we have the word freedom. So I'm going to go to the paragraph that has the title freedom, and I'm going to skim through the paragraph to try and find the answer. How do most countries view freedom? And if you skim very quickly, you will find that most cultures perceive freedom as a balance between individual freedoms and the needs of society as a whole. And here we have our answer. How do most countries view freedom? Freedom is perceived as a balance between individual freedoms and the needs of society as a whole. Question number 7. How is tolerance translated into laws? You will find here in the paragraph the title is tolerance. So I'm going to go directly to this paragraph and I will skim for the answer. Tolerance, or the acceptance of people different from ourselves, is another important human value. Many countries have important legislation in place to protect minorities from abuse and discrimination. I found my answer. I can stop here and go to write it down. How is tolerance translated into laws? Many countries have important legislation in place to protect minorities from abuse and discrimination. Question 8. What did experts find out about different cultures regarding human values? What do you think they found out when they studied human values? So after the studying, after ethnographers and anthropologists, what happened? I can find here, they believe that almost all cultures, from the simplest to the most complex, share basic traits and values. So I write down the answer. What did experts find out? They found out that almost all cultures share several basic traits and values. Question 9. How is compassion best expressed as tangible behavior? I go to the paragraph that has the title, Compassion, and I start skimming through the paragraph. You will find that it can be expressed through looking after the sick to donating a portion of one's earnings to charitable causes. This was the reading comprehension. Always remember, we read the questions, multiple choice and productive questions, and then we go back to read the paragraphs. Let's start our translation exercise. Here are a few tips for translation. First, you have to translate meaning, not words. So you have to understand the sentence carefully and translate the meaning. Don't translate word by word. So the second tip will be avoid word for word translation. Because if you translate word for word and there's a word that you don't know, you might mess up the translation or you might leave it empty, and we don't want to see that. So don't leave spaces for words you don't know. If you understand the whole meaning, you will be fine writing a full, complete sentence. Translate the following into good English. Let's take a look at the sentence here. Try to read it more than once in order to translate into good English. Remember, if you don't know a word, understand the sentence in order to write it completely. سعود. التعاطف ومشاركة الآخرين والتسامح هي من القيم الإنسانية الهامة. If I want to translate this into good English, I have to understand first. So I have التعاطف ومشاركة الآخرين والتسامح. These are human values. Now, the rest of the sentence says هي من القيم الإنسانية الهامة, so they are important human values. Do you remember the human values we took in the first episode of this unit? التعاطف, compassion, مشاركة الآخرين. I can say sharing with others or caring for others. التسامح. Can I say forgiveness? Yes. Can I say acceptance? Of course. If you don't remember the word tolerance, it's okay to use other synonyms that means تسامح. So, to write it as a full sentence. سعود, compassion, caring for others, and tolerance are one of the most important human values. And also I can write, instead of compassion, I can say empathy, because empathy also means التعاطف. So you don't have to write the exact same sentence as I have here. You can use your own words and it will also be correct. Here's another one. محمد. هذا صحيح. ينبغي أن يساعد الأغنياء الفقراء والمحتاجين. I can say for هذا صحيح, that's true, that's correct. I can say definitely, for sure. Any word would be fine. ينبغي أن يساعد الأغنياء الفقراء والمحتاجين. I can say wealthy people, or can you think of another one? Rich people. I don't know wealthy or rich, I can say people with money. Should help or should assist the poor or underprivileged. Yes, of course you can use our vocabulary words. And needy people, or people in need, or people that need help. You can use as many of the vocabulary as you know. You don't have to use the exact model answer here. I'm sure you will even write a better answer. In this episode, we learned how to, first with the reading comprehension, extract relevant information from the paragraphs. We read the questions first, and we had multiple choice questions. We also had productive questions. And then we skimmed through the paragraphs to find the answers after reading. Then we tackled the translation question. And remember, don't translate word by word, translate the whole meaning of the sentences you have. Thank you for watching.